The conclusion of Mariko's mission is already known to readers of James Sell's book, but even the most basic story points are overshadowed by the compelling, poignant trip that takes place in Episode 9. This penultimate episode of Shogun is a tribute to someone who has become just as important to the story as Blackthorn, if not more so. It's more than just a farewell song for a beloved character, and this week serves as both a showcase for Sa's amazing ability to keep us waiting for her next move and a showcase for the character herself. It's evident that none of the two men knows why Mariko is even in Osaka, given the revelation in last week's episode that she was invited to travel with Blackthorn and Yabushige. Mariko claims it's just more easy for her to join them on the ship because they're all going to the same area, but she has no intention of disclosing the true reason for her attendance. Given what we now know, Lord Ishido has been holding the council families captive, and the castle to coer the regents into following every decision he and Okiba make. The atmosphere in Osaka is understandably hostile. It's a surprise any of them get any sleep at all before Yabushige and Blackthorn are called in to meet with Ishido and the council the next night. But even Yabushige is powerless to try to turn the tide in his favor, not after he has attempted to sacrifice Blackthorn and his cannons to prove his real allegiance. It's a gamble, and one that doesn't pay off when Ishido swiftly dismisses them from his presence. But as it happens, they're not the only ones hoping to meet with Ishido. Mariko makes her appearance soon after and immediately starts by saying hello and congratulating Ishido and Okiba on their recent engagement. She also shares memories of their childhood days spent together in Isaac with Okiba. Subsequently, she discloses her true purpose for coming, which is to personally accompany Toranaga consort Shizu, her new baby and wife Kiri, back to Edo. The Ishido quickly clarifies that this will not be allowed, especially because Toranaga has been told to appear in Osaka in a few short weeks. Mariko vows that she and Toranaga will return on the day he has promised to surrender, that is, unless everyone in the city is forced to stay put. It's an even riskier gamble than Yabushige's. By duty, Mariko has to obey the order of her Lord Toranaga, and while the confinement of Ishido's hostages is well known throughout Osaka, it would be dishonorable for him to admit that everyone is being held in the castle against their will. The Ishido, however, knows full well that if he admits that no one is a hostage, the other regents and their families will soon follow Mariko's exiting stage right. For the first time in the episode, Sai gives us a truly breathtaking performance, capturing the attention of everyone in the room with her poise and presence. When Mariko, Kiri, Shizu, and a few of Toranaga's faithful samurai try to leave Osaka the next morning, these same qualities come in handy. Mariko is compelled to suppress the horrifying information that her own son Ruji appears to have been poisoned against her, even as she actively strives to oppose Ishido to a potentially fatal degree. The group leaves the city with the knowledge that Ruji has vowed to deny that she is his mother, yet no matter how many arrows are hurled at Mariko's feet, she guides them past the gates without fail. A confrontation with the Shido's men is inevitable, especially when they begin stressing the need for some kind of permit first in order for anyone to leave, but Mariko remains impassive, ordering her warriors to kill anyone who tries to stop them. As men are cut down on both sides, it becomes apparent that Mariko's supporters are dwindling in the wake of another wave of Ishido's fighters descending on them, which leads the lady to pick up an Adenata herself in an attempt to cut her way through. But orders are only to detain Mariko, not to kill her, so that even as she swings her spear around trying to carve a path forward, she's met with resistance at every turn. Gradually, Mariko's composure begins to crumble, screams of exertion and despair ripping themselves out of her throat until she loses her balance and collapses in a heap, devastated but resigned. Mariko declares emphatically that she must conduct seppuku at sunset and protest of the offense, since she can no longer fulfill her vowed duty to Toranaga. Her life will be lost by sunset, but as the church views suicide as a terrible sin, she asks Lord Kyama to act as her second in the situation. Everyone is thinking about what's coming later that day. Although Mariko's former friend would die to be free of the disgrace that has burdened her, Ichiba wisely notes that more importantly, all of Osaka will be disgraced for letting her die. The other regions have doubts about Mariko's ability to keep her word because of their shared history and upbringing as sisters. These two women are in a unique position to understand each other better than most. For this reason, when Blackthorn and his translator are called to an audience with the Tak heir, it turns out to be a front for Mariko and Okiba to talk candidly and privately. Have the years that have passed between them left them at an impasse, especially when Okiba accuses Mariko of surrendering to a pointless death, as Mariko urgently reminds the other woman. However, Okiba has more power in this fight given where she stands, and accepting death isn't surrender. While previous installments of the story have taken a deeper look at the tragedy of Mariko's past as well as her persisting unhappiness in her marriage to Buntaro, Episode 9 makes a point to remind us that she's had to bury her emotions behind the eightfold fence for the majority of her life. In terms of significant moments, there's the loss of her family in the wake of her father's betrayal as well as the manner by which she's been denied the honor of joining all of them in death. And now this week we find that Mao once attempted to flee her circumstances by running away when she was pregnant with her son 14 years ago, stumbling through the dangerous snow drifts of the Shai region. It was an act that inadvertently led her into the arms of the church, allowing her to cross paths with Father Martin and find some peace through a new faith. When Mariko calls Father Martin to hear her last confession, it is this same faith that she desperately clings to, ignoring the events that transpire between them and what Mariko claims are her final desires. Blackthorn, Kiri, and Shizu watch as Mariko gets ready to die. However, Mariko notices that there is a noticeable absence, and she understands that Kyama has decided not to attend and support her. Rather, Blackthorn takes the lead, promising to brandish his sword once she has actually collapsed, but as Mariko prepares to stab herself in the heart, she himself breaks up the ceremony to give Mariko the necessary permission to leave, thereby granting a stay of execution. Everything appears too good to be true, and for a split second, it is. Perhaps understanding that this might be their final night together, Blackthorn and Mariko decide to stop suppressing their emotions and spend the night together, falling asleep in each other's arms. But as a last-ditch pledge to Ishido in return for impunity, Ibushi himself is going to unleash an unexpected threat that will upend their tranquility. Assassins in masks enter the castle and kill samurai while they sleep, then proceed to Mariko's room. The translator and the Hatamoto hold their own long enough to flee, collecting Kiri, Shizu, and the baby, as well as Yabushige, who convincingly plays the victim in all of this. Kiri suggests they barricade themselves in the dojo or the warehouse since the doors are heavy enough to protect them. But that option only works right up until Mariko realizes their attackers are setting up fuses to blow the doors open. As Blackthorn struggles to find something heavy enough to block the door, Mariko places herself against her to protest Vito's shameful attack, seemingly already knowing what her death will achieve. Similar to Blackthorn, who finds it hard to believe what he's seeing, it's impossible to accept Mariko's death as inevitable even though she has been waiting for it. This is because Mariko has been such a vital component of Shogun from the start in ways that the original adaptation was unable to adequately convey. With the destruction it causes and the ripple effects that everyone will undoubtedly feel leading up to the climax, the penultimate episode proves to be a crimson sky all its own. However, none could have predicted that it would come from a single lady instead of a heart of men.